What's up, herbalists? This is Mason, and you're listening to the HerbRally Podcast. Today, we have the pleasure of hearing from Dr. Lori Rose once again from the Hill College in Texas. She's going to cover an Epstein-Barr case study. If you'd like to connect with Lori Rose and learn more about her holistic wellness program at the Hill College, you can visit hillcollege.edu or shoot her an email at lrose@hillcollege.edu. We also published an episode on the HerbRally Podcast where she discusses her program in depth, and I'll be sure to include that link in the show notes. So a big thanks to Lori Rose for taking the time to contribute her wealth of knowledge to the show, and thanks to you all for listening. Enjoy.
Hi, HerbRally. This is Lori Rose with the Hill College Holistic Wellness Pathway. I am a board-certified holistic nutritionist and nutrition professional, a board-certified holistic wellness coach, a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, as well as an American Herbalist Guild registered herbalist. I am really excited to be on HerbRally today to talk to you guys about an Epstein-Barr virus case that I had. First, I just want to thank Mason and HerbRally for having me on to talk about this really cool case study. And let's just dive right in. So, a little bit of background. Before I had this client come to me, I had been reading Renee Davis's blog on how herbalists could really rethink chronic infections. And she was positing that instead of us jumping straight to the antimicrobials, we might be more holistic thinking if we really think about changing the niche that was allowing these microbes to sort of become imbalanced in our body in the first place. And another one of my teachers, Sam Kaufman, had always mentioned changing the terrain to make our bodies less habitable when we have microbial infections. So this was part of my training, and this background's going to be important here in just a minute. So in November of 2017, I had a 46-year-old female client. She was a stay-at-home mom. She'd been diagnosed with active Epstein-Barr virus in 2014. She had a cold and dry constitution. Her fatigue had increased to the point where she was sleeping more than 20 hours a day for a very long period of time. And this prevented any activity, any family functions. If she went anywhere, even to the grocery store or even to sit at the dinner table, she would sleep for days and days. The conventional response to this was to put her on a narcolepsy medication, which did decrease the number of hours that she was sleeping, but she knew that this wasn't really addressing the underlying issue and that she would need to be on this forever unless the Epstein-Barr itself was really addressed. So she actually had a really supportive doctor who recommended that she go see someone in the holistic field to really help her with restoring balance to her body. And one of her request was that we really didn't jump to the antimicrobials because she wanted to avoid any die-off reactions. She was also presenting with a lot of inflammation that was painful as a response to the virus, and so she wanted to avoid any healing crisis that might occur. And so when she made that request, it made me draw on my previous education from Renee Davis and Sam Kaufman. And really one thing I want to address before I get into my protocol with her and what happened is why we feel so tempted to jump to the antimicrobials in the first place. And I think we have this sort of ingrained fear of these unseen monsters in our body. And because of this fear, it prevents us from stepping back and zooming out and really thinking about what's going on, whole picture and whole body. And this fear prevents us from really wanting to take the long game and instead jump right in and annihilate everything in the short game to decrease that fear that we have. When in reality, if we take the change the terrain approach, we may not even need to use antimicrobials at all. Now, this isn't always the case, but I do want to share a case with you that was successful without using antimicrobials. I think some other things about her case I do want to mention that one of her side effects was that her appetite was decreased from the fatigue. So she would have a meal in the morning, she would skip meals during the day, and by the time she was hungry at night or thinking about food, she was so exhausted that it was really just junk food or pasta. It wasn't really nutrient-dense foods. She did present with a sensitivity to smells, so perfumes, chemicals, and dust. So I knew there was some sort of liver stagnation going on. And her goal really was just to decrease the fatigue enough to enjoy family events and hobbies again, but also to decrease or eradicate the need for the narcolepsy medication. And so in November 17th, I had this big plan in my head, but having had some coaching training, I knew that hitting her with the full protocol was just unlikely at this point. I mean, she couldn't even get up to eat food, so how could she really do this full-on hardcore protocol? So nutritionally, she did commit to attempting to eat nutrient-dense meals 3 times a day, and this really required a lot of coaching for some mindset shifts, because this client was comparing her current activity to the activity of her former self before she was diagnosed with Epstein-Barr, and it was creating a lot of self-animosity. And so we talked about her doing a lot of letting go rituals and meeting herself where she was and giving her self accolades for what she was accomplishing now with where she was, with who she was. I think that was a really important part of this protocol. And that's why I'm really thankful for my coaching background, and also for how integrated coaching is to the Hill College Holistic Wellness Pathway as well. So HerbRally, I started really simple, and my thought was, if the mitochondria are being suppressed by Epstein-Barr, and if this client's not eating, she's not going to have energy to do anything, make anything, create herbal remedies, eat food, unless she gets some nutrients to those mitochondria to start creating some ATP. And so I jumped right to the nourishing infusions to make sure and maximize the vitamins and minerals that she was getting. So I recommended an ounce of oat straw or nettles. I told her she could pick whichever one she would actually consume, but I combined that with 2 tablespoons of rose hips, and that was for vitamin C and phytonutrient support of the immune system. And then because of her cold constitution, I recommended she add cayenne to that, also as a diffusive to sort of get things flowing inside the body. I will mention that I recommended a bowel tolerance amount of magnesium. I recommended benfotiamine, which is a lipid-soluble form of vitamin B1 that has been shown to sort of jumpstart the mitochondria, and then a probiotic to start working on the internal microbiome. So she did implement all of those. This was at the beginning of November. And by the end of November, she had gained so much energy that she was able to meal prep. She was eating 3 meals a day when possible. And she also had so much energy that she attended a local herb class, but also she registered and signed up for the Hill College Holistic Wellness Pathway. So signing up for an entire program requires a big jump from sleeping 20 hours a day. So that was a pretty amazing improvement in less than 1 month from just nourishing infusions and vitamin C. But she was definitely still having inflammation, definitely still having some signs of illness. Another improvement was that her family got hit with like a family virus, and she said normally she would have taken much longer than the whole family to rebound from that, and she would have slept for days and days and days. And she said this one she responded normally. In fact, she got better than some of her other family members, and it really didn't get her sent to sleep like her previous illnesses had done. So in December 2017, I responded to this increase in energy by sort of upping the ante for the herbal protocols. So we recommended medicinal mushrooms up to 15 grams a day, astragalus of 1 ounce per day, and shatavari, which was chosen because it's moistening and immunomodulating, up to 20 grams per day, and then working in seaweeds just as much as possible for the nutrient density. Within 1 month, she was napping less, and she was feeling so good and working with her doctor that by the time January rolled around, she was off her narcolepsy medication, and she was maintaining this herbal protocol to spend some time rebuilding balance in her body. But by month 3 of our protocol, she wasn't really talking about Epstein-Barr anymore, and she wasn't talking about illness and fatigue anymore. She wasn't talking about inflammation. She really just wanted to start thinking of ways to modify her diet, like reducing gluten, or what are some better forms of whole foods instead of processed foods. When 2 months ago in November, she wasn't even able to think about which foods are the most nutritious versus which aren't. And so this was a really fascinating case to me of how frame shifting, how we address chronic infection, can support the overall health of the body instead of just attacking with antimicrobials. And if I would have just attacked with antimicrobials, she may have felt worse, she may have lost motivation, and it definitely wouldn't have changed the niche that was allowing these microbes. Are you allowed to call viruses microbes? I'm just going to do it, right? That were allowing this virus to thrive inside of her body. So I hope you enjoyed that case study. I actually have another Epstein-Barr virus client right now, but I'm going to let that protocol go a little bit longer before I report on that. But you can ask me questions at lrose@hillcollege.edu, or check out my program at the Hill College Holistic Wellness Pathway, www.hillcollege.edu/holistic wellness. And now this client happens to be a student with me thanks to her dedication and persistence and her willingness to mind shift, but also her dedication to her protocol. Thanks, HerbRally.
All right, everyone. Hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to stay up to date on all things HerbRally, such as upcoming herbalism events, new monographs and podcasts, etc., I'd recommend you sign up for the HerbRally newsletter, and you can do so at herbrally.com/newsletter. We send it out about 2 times a month, sometimes less, sometimes more. Really depends on whether there's a certain program we're promoting, that kind of thing. But yeah, to stay up to date on herbalism events and everything else going on here at HerbRally, subscribe to the newsletter. That's herbrally.com/newsletter. So thanks again for listening, and until next time, take care.